What's up, everybody? Soul here with another Final Fantasy the Ivalice Chronicles video, and today we're going to be taking a look at each of the unique jobs and or characters available, and I'm going to give you my opinion on how I think you should build these characters, equipment, and abilities alike. So without too much yip yap about it, let's get right into it. First, we're going to start with Ramza. This build for Ramza is magic damage dealing. Ramza is a fantastic character in that he's one of the only characters in the game that also grows not only physically but magically. He is basically gender neutral in his stat growths, so he's capable of being on even par with those abilities physically and magically, and that's a fantastic thing. We kind of want to lean into that and do some things with Ramza because most of the unique characters, well, you know, they're not all having that same benefit. With that said, Ramza in this magic damage dealing build is a ton of fun. So what we're going to do is, of course, use his main job, that Gallant Knight, which is Squire, just to the nth degree. It does get better with each chapter, and you get access to more and more as you carry on through the game. And then we want to subclass Samurai with that draw out ability. This is something that you're really not going to be able to benefit from, especially in the first chapter. It's going to be later in the game. And then you get those katanas and you can draw them out and utilize all the different abilities that are made available to samurais. With that said, we want to use that reaction skill, Shira Hadori. That is an amazing ability. Scaling off of your Brave, when you get your Brave high enough, basically nothing is going to get through that Shira Hadori as far as physical attacks, even ranged attacks from like bows and crossbows and such. He's going to block, he's going to be nearly untouchable, and it's going to feel great. For that support ability, we're going to run Arcane Strength. That's going to enhance his magic damage dealing capabilities, and he's going to hit even harder. And then of course for his movement, we're going to run Teleport. Now, some people might not know, I'm assuming most do, but you're looking at that Samurai and you're like, why Samurai? Well, Samurai's abilities in that job scale off of magic damage. So it absolutely benefits us to run magic damage on Samurai or with the Samurai subclass using those abilities. With that in mind, for weapons, we're going to rock the Materia Blade Plus. Now you can find one of these through Treasure Hunter. I'll do another video on where you can find all these rare items, but you can also catch these from ninjas. I believe level 96 or above. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but regardless, they're going to throw them at you, and with sticky fingers you can catch them and get an capped amount of them, however many as you want. It's absolutely phenomenal. We also want to put on an Aegis shield on Ramza because we want to stack as much magic attack damage as possible. I love ribbons. They're unbelievably strong. You can get them from poaching. Highly recommend you do so. And then we have options for the armor. Lordly Robe is fantastic, but you're only getting it in the last part of the game. No spoilers. I'm trying not to too much here. But you also have access to other robes that do some pretty good things. I would recommend the Wizard's Robe. It has a nice +2 to magical attack, something you're not going to get too much of from any other real sources. You can, of course, go with other things like the Black Robe, which gives you a boost to certain elements, but that Samurai magic attack damage doesn't necessarily need a specific element, and so you just want magic attack bonuses. So Wizard Robe's fantastic. Lordly Robe is also great, giving you +1 magic attack, but it also gives you a +2 physical, so you have some options there. You know, it's up to you. Anyways, moving on to accessories. Mage Power Glove, giving you some bonus to your magic attack damage, but maybe you don't necessarily just want that. Maybe you're interested in that Septium. That Septium is a fantastically powerful piece of equipment that is giving you not only haste, but it's also giving you that invisibility at the start of each battle, which is pretty useful there. So with this build, Ramza is going to have some great freedom to move around the map, to get where he needs to get, to nuke his opponents with your Ultima ability or with your Samurai attacks. And yeah, it's phenomenal. Absolutely love this. It's a ton of fun. And I don't really think I see or hear about too many people running Ramza with magical damage. Next up is Ramza's physical build. Build number 2, if you will. But this is Ramza doing physical damage, getting in your face and just waylaying enemies. This is a ton of fun. I absolutely love just smacking the snot out of enemies and laying them down. Of course, on this, we're sticking with the Squire class because it's just so powerful. All unique characters in their base class, which are considered squires, I'm using air quotes here on my fingers, regardless, have really good stat growths and good stats in general, so feel comfortable relying on them. With that said, we're going to subclass Monk. Monk has unbelievable abilities from Chakra to Aura Blast, Terra Blast, you name it. It's really, really good stuff. Of course, you can even revive. The amount of utility you get out of your Monk is bonkers. And so putting that with Ramza Squire, what you can do is unprecedented. Now, I know a lot of people are probably looking at this list. You absolutely want Shia Hidori as your reaction, and then the people are looking at this dual wield. Listen, if you want to run Brawler and you want to forego the swords, by all means do it. But my suggestion is to subclass Monk, run dual wield, because Knight swords, especially once you get up there and you got that Chaos Blade, the damage just starts getting insane. And it just wrecks, absolutely wrecks. Not only that, Knight swords have fantastic added effects, like the Excalibur, which you see in that offhand, has haste. There's others that protect, and so on and so forth. But moving on, movement, we want to have that movement +3, and so that gives you lots of mobility so that Ramza can get in their face, be aggressive, and do what they need to do. Of course, if you're towards the end of the game and you want to try to rely on teleports and flies and blah blah, have at it. This is just my suggestion and what I used in the past and what I really enjoyed. Looking over here at the equipment, we are going to run that Chaos Blade in his main hand because it just hits and hits so hard. Excalibur in the offhand so that we're getting that haste. I absolutely love it. Can't get enough of haste. And then you have a choice here on the headpiece. Of course, you can mix it up and always do things different than what I recommend. But ribbon is what I absolutely love. I love being immune to all status elements. It's huge. But you can also throw on that headband. Now, some people are looking at that headband going, whoa, that's a low-level piece of equipment. Yeah, but it gives you +2 to physical attack. It's absolutely huge. And so it can be really useful for that. And like I said, with that Shia Hidori, you're not really worried about taking too many hits physically and so on. You're just worried about the magical damage, which, you know, there's ways to work around that. Regardless, that headband is fantastic. And then for the body armor, I suggest a rubber suit. You can always put something else on. You want to go all out. You want to get the Genji armor. You want the Maximilian armor. It's all up to you. But rubber suit I think is great, making you immune to lightning damage, giving you a little bit of MP for whatever you might want to use for like your Ultima and so on and so forth. But it gives you some more options and coverage. And then at the accessories, we've got that Chantage, which is fantastic. And so Chantage is going to give you a re-raise and a regen for free. As long as you're wearing it, you've got it. Love it. Can't get enough of it. It's a fantastic item. And then of course, if you choose not to use the Chantage, you can use the Bracer. The Bracer gives you a nice boost to your physical damage. I believe it's a +3, which is really, really big. And yeah, you're going to absolutely smack the snot out of your opponents and drop them dead like it's nobody's business. Up next is Mustadio. And so Mustadio is phenomenal. His machinist starting job is basically a squire, as are all of the unique characters' basic jobs, but we'll not get into that. And he can use guns, and to great effect, and you're going to love it. You're going to want to. With that said, that subclass Knight makes perfect sense on him for me. Being able to break your opponent's equipment at range on Mustadio doing this is phenomenal. It's so much fun, and I highly suggest you run that on him. Breaking people's stuff and rending their whatever it might be at range is phenomenal. Reaction wise, we're going to use that Soulbind. That way when we take damage, we're having it, sharing it. It's nice, it's great, and it creates some survivability for him. And then of course, for that support ability, I've got Arcane Strength because it scales up the damage that your magical guns deal. Not directly, but the spells that they cast. And so this is phenomenal right here. It's a really, really fun way to play and to scale up that damage. This is what I would suggest you to do. And of course for mobility, I've got Fly on there, 5,000 JP, my goodness. But if you want to just use Ignore Elevation, that's fine. Get some extra jump, move, whatever it is you suggest, whatever you want. Teleport, which is really expensive too, but Fly ultimately guarantees you're able to get where you need to go, and to great effect. And so that's what I would suggest personally. Big milestone there, big height to strive for JP wise. Of course, moving on to those weapons, elemental guns is what I'm suggesting. Blaster is what I got on the screen, but you have others like the glacial gun and so on and so forth. Use them. There's an elemental gun for each type, basically lightning, fire, and ice. Pick which one you like the most and run it and use it. Blaster, I think you get relatively late. Glacial gun, you can get relatively early. I'll get some more content on that out soon, but really, really good. Now, for that headpiece, we've got Thief's Cap because it's going to raise your speed. You want Mustadio to act fast, to get moving, so that he can get where he needs to go and be done with it. And so that's what I'd highly suggest you to run on him. And then that body piece, that ninja gear. Ninja gear is great because it gives you a starting invisibility. So that way he's not necessarily getting targeted right away. He might still get hit by AoE and such, so don't be careless. But it gives you an advantage that allows you to get him into a position where he can utilize his strengths to the best effect, in my opinion. And then of course for that accessory piece, we've got the Japamala. It has some pretty great immunities and things built into it, but what it does that I really like that you want to utilize here primarily is absolutely that boosted elemental damage. This is really, really good. We're using those elemental guns. It all synergizes and makes them smack even harder. Can't say enough good about it. This is a really fun way to play Mustadio. Up next is our girl Agrias. And so Agrias is a phenomenal character that grows or comes with white magic when you first get her in the game. And honestly, I think she's got some fantastic abilities. She's like a sub Orlandeau. And so I'm not going to go too far into detail on that, but our Agrias doesn't quite hit the same as Orlandeau in my mind, so I think she needs to fill a different role. And this is just my opinion. You might feel otherwise. Play the game the way you want to. Do what you want to do. This is my suggestion. Of course, you're running her on her main class, which is that Holy Knight, that job. And then as a subclass or sub job, we want to run that White Mage. Give your team backup heals, or maybe even her being your main healer. It's completely up to you. I love when my healers have multiple purposes and don't just heal. And so Agrias having some heals in her kit, extra coverage, it's fantastic. Of course, we're running that reaction, Shira Hadori. It is broken and it is so strong. I can't stop saying it. Get it, get it, get it, get it. Can't keep stop saying, yeah, get it. Anyways, on to the support ability. Swiftness is what I would choose because, you know, getting those heals out sometimes is a huge deal. You want to get them out immediately. Or those raises, you name it. Swiftness is absolutely vital. And yeah, Agrias doesn't need to get into the fray because of her holy sword abilities. So keep her back, use that swiftness, and get the most out of it. And then, of course, in that movement ability, running that mana font. Being able to move around, replenishing your MP without having to bother anyone or use items or have somebody come over and use a chakra can be really big. And then, of course, those holy skills, those sword skills, sword techniques, if you will, they don't cost MP. And so you're just using your MP for your white magic. Mana font will make sure you're kept topped off, and I really, really like it personally. Now, you're looking at the equipment. You see Excalibur there as my suggestion. That is not the strongest sword in the game. Bear that in mind. It is not the strongest sword in the game, but it has haste on it. You can get these from ninjas at high levels. They'll throw them at you, and that haste, I cannot stress it enough, is so absolutely good. That is what I'd suggest you to put on her. If you don't like it and you want her to deal more damage and you don't really care for that, there's nothing wrong with that. Do it. Do you. That's just my suggestion. Of course, Aegis Shield as well, because we want to have some extra magic attack, boosting that healing and so on and so forth, or those holies, which that Excalibur is also going to do, by the way, too. She's casting holy. Excalibur is going to help her out and boost that holy damage. And then, of course, with the headpiece, we got that ribbon, status of immunity, fantastic. Now here you see on that body, we've got Lordly Robe. This is where I think the Lordly Robe should go. You only get one in the game, and so it really does a good job because it adds a little bit of physical attack, it adds a little bit of magical attack, it adds HP and a decent amount of MP, and so it just seems like it fits best on Agrias, in my opinion. You might disagree, you might like it on someone else, that's fine, that's my opinion. And then of course that Chantage, I really like that on her. Get as many of those as you can from poaching and so on, and have a field day with this character. Up next is Marach and Rapha. These are two characters that don't get a lot of love in the game, and they can be played in quite a few different ways. I'm going to put them in here together because they're more or less the same. Marach actually has a little more stats boost and growth and so on and so forth. You can kind of see it on the screen right here. And then, of course, Rapha has some different things going on, but without getting too into that, they more or less are the same, doing the same. With that said, their main class is unique, has some interesting abilities. They kind of hit randomly and at different times and different places. It can be a little infuriating. It can be fun. It can be a lot of things. Maybe you enjoy it. Maybe you like the design of it. I don't know. It's up to you. One thing that they do have that I really like is they have an innate ability to use poles and pole weapons. So pole weapons are really good because they scale off of magic damage. I really like that. And they also can hit 2 blocks away instead of, or 2 tiles I should say, instead of just 1, which is really good. For me, I like to subclass Mystic on here. Now bear in mind, you're getting 2 for 1 here with these twins. You can run like Time Magic on the other one or Geomancy, whatever you prefer. But Mystic is what I really enjoy running. I love those debuffs. I love having that in their kit and a way for them to utilize that. Of course, we're running that Shia Hidori as a reaction because they're going to be in the mix, in the fray, and getting hit. We're running that double hand so that we absolutely make those poles hit and hit hard. Of course, as magic damage too at that, but it's going to smack, and it's really, really good. And then, of course, for that movement, we've got Mana Font so that they can replenish that MP as they're moving about and doing their thing. This isn't a requirement. You can mix this around, change it, do what you want. There's nothing wrong with that, especially if you're going to run Geomancer over Mystic or something else, or maybe, you know, it's up to you. Mana Font is what I put on there. I enjoyed having that on them, but I also didn't really use these two too much, so bear that in mind. Now onto the weapon. Whale Whisker is my suggestion. That is the best pole in the game. You have others that are available too. I will say do not use the Goku Rod. It makes your opponents atheist, and then of course you can't really mess with them on that magical damage. You're not going to really do anything to them. With that said, moving on, we're looking at the headpiece. Always ribbon, love it. Not always, but a lot of the time. Ribbon, really good status immunity. And then of course for the body piece, we got the Wizard's Robe because we want that bonus magic attack. Now you're not going to put your Lordly Robe on this character. Maybe you do, that's fine, but you only have one, so I try to bear that in mind when I do these builds. And so Wizard's Robe is my suggestion here. If you subclass like Black Mage for these individuals, you probably want to run the Black Robe instead, or if you're worried about taking too much damage, by all means switch it up and use the White Robe, and then you can half how much magical damage you take from those specific elements. Moving on, that Septium is what I'm going to suggest you to run on them for that bonus magic attack and so on. And of course that starting invisibility. Really good stuff right there. This is a fun way to play these characters, and I really enjoyed it. Up next is Meliadoul, and so Meliadoul is a fun and phenomenal character that has some unique things going on in her main class, Divine Knight, and let's talk about it. You'll notice what I'm doing with all these characters. Sorry for this spinoff right here. I'm trying to build them differently. I'm trying to build them in a different way so they're not all the same. I want them to actually be different, play different, and have fun. And this is what I enjoy doing in my game, and I hope that it benefits you in the same way. Divine Knight's really good for one particular reason, and that is that she can break equipment. And then once again, these sword techniques don't cost any MP. Most broken thing in the game. It doesn't make sense to me. They don't cost any MP. So she can break equipment at range for free. Guess what else is free when you cast? Geomancer. You can cast Geomancy skills for no MP at range, and they don't do a ton of damage, but they do debuff the opponent, making Meliadoul with this build an insane debuffer. Really, really fun, really, really addictive. In my opinion, I enjoyed it a lot. Now, what do we do with that MP now? We run Mana Shield. That way when she does take a hit, which you don't want her to do anyways, but when she does, it absorbs the damage, and she's able to shrug it off, so to speak. Moving forward, support-wise, we want that dual wield because we want to have multiple weapons. We'll get to that in a minute. And then movement, Mana Font, because if you're going to use your MP to absorb damage, you need a way to get your MP back, and here you are, Mana Font. Now, moving to those weapons. Materia Blade Plus has phenomenal magic attack stats, and so that is what we want to go for. You do catch more of them off of ninjas at higher levels, so there's always a way to get them. If you're not able to get these, of course, Rune Blades are fantastic until you can get the Materia Blade Pluses, but regardless, by using these, you are scaling up your Geomancy damage. which is primarily what you're going to be using other than her break skills. Sometimes you don't want to break equipment, so that geomancy skill is what you're looking to lean on, in my opinion. If you don't like that and you want her to deal more damage, then get off of Material Blade and use regular damage swords. She's even able to use spears, but that's my opinion on that. Of course, the headpiece, ribbon, fantastic, status immunity, set it 100 times. And then for that body piece, Gaia gear. So Gaia gear is great because you're going to be able to cast on yourself when you're standing in the right terrain, mind you, earth damage and heal, shrug it off, heal yourself. It's fantastic. It's a great option. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It creates some versatility. And then of course with the accessory, we got Diamond Bracelet. It gives you both physical and magical attack. It seems appropriate on her. And yeah, it's not one of those pieces of equipment that's just so hard to get. But feel free to replace it if you don't like it. This is my Meliadoul build, and I absolutely loved it. Up next is the big dog himself, Orlandeau. So Orlandeau is arguably the strongest character in the game. You will hear people talk about him nonstop, relentlessly, everything he can do, how amazing he is, and there's 100 different ways to play him. It really doesn't matter because he just smacks no matter what. But I'm going to tell you what I think is best for him, and it actually kind of is similar, unfortunately, to what Ramza's doing, but Orlandeau's got some amazing abilities in his kit, and so of course, you're utilizing his main class, that Sword Saint, and all of those sword abilities, and all of their greatness and everything they do, but you're also going to run Monk as a subclass. Why? Because Monk has so much utility in what it can do, giving him even more options to be bonkers in a lot of different ways. Are you limited to this? No. You can switch it up, you can do what you want. This is just my suggestion because Monk is such a powerful class. I think it absolutely complements Orlandeau, and it makes him really versatile and adds to his kit, allowing him to do more. Shirahadori, of course, is what I'd suggest as a reaction because it's just ridiculous. Dual wield, because we want multiple weapons. We'll get into that in a little bit. And then movement +3 so that Orlandeau can basically make sure he's able to get at whatever he needs to so that he can John Wick it down to the ground. Back on to the equipment, looking at the equipment, Chaos Blade. Boom, that thing is insane. Really, really strong. You can get it. It can be thrown. Yeah, it's bonkers. And you want it. Put it in his main hand, let him smack and do great damage. And then that Excalibur on the offhand. You don't have to use Excalibur in the offhand. It gives him the haste. I love it. You can always run something else in the offhand, double the damage, whatever you want. But for me, that's what I do, and I like that haste that it gives you. Ribbon, set it, immunity, love it. Body piece, the Maximilian armor. Now this is the best armor, heavy armor piece in the game, and you only get it at the end of the game. I'm not going to go too much further into that. Regardless, you can always put something else on there. You're going to work your way up. Just put him in some heavy armor. For whatever reason, just get his HP up. That's all he needs is HP and then physical attack. If you don't really care for that, put him in a power gi. Or, let him get some physical damage out of that. And if you're not worried about it, just want to add as much damage as possible. Once you get Shirahadori and his bravery up, it's done, So that's my opinion. HP is really good, though, because you never know with the magic damage and the AoE and so on and so forth. So that's my suggestion. And then the accessory, he comes with, I believe, Bracer. Keep it on him. Adds physical damage. It's really nice. That's what you want on him. If you want something else, there's nothing wrong with that. There's items on there that give you shell, re-raise, regen, blah, blah, blah. For me, I just keep the physical damage on him, so he just absolutely smacks everything in its way. And yeah, Orlandeau, the I win button. Up next is Beowulf. Beowulf is a really fun character and unique. I always played him in lots of different ways when I was a kid playing this game in its original form. And the one way that I fell in love with him is just this, so I'm sharing with you. Of course, is relying on his main class. And of course, his main class is pretty phenomenal in that it has a lot of utility and different things that it can do. He's able to put his enemies to sleep. He's able to siphon their HP, MP, which is really, really good. All kinds of different things. His abilities are pretty bonkers. Zombie, chicken. The number of things he can do is pretty great, and it's absolutely a joy to play. It all scales off of magical attack, and so I'd suggest running Summoner as his sub-job. Summoner sub-job on him is equally fun. Ton of opportunities risen there, and one big thing about that Summoner sub-job is Titan. Titan scales off the user's HP, and so this character is going to get some decent HP in what he does, especially with his equipment that he has access to and everything else. And yeah, it just felt like a match made in heaven. So run that summoner on him, let him debuff and nerf his opponents, and then just come in and waylay them with different abilities. And of course, Titan, like I said, it's just good. It's just great. You can't get enough of it. Really, really good stuff. And then for that reaction, we're running Vanish. It's so much fun on him. If he does manage to get hit and get targeted, he just disappears and you're out of trouble. He runs off, does what he needs to do it again. This is what I'd suggest running on his reaction. Support half MP because you want to be able to cast those summoner abilities without the huge expense that is tacked on them. And then Monofont so that he has a way to get that MP back without bothering his team, without having to take actions to do so. Just simply move off, get a little bit of MP back, and be able to stay sustained. Now looking at equipment, we've gotten that Materia Blade Plus because of its amazing ability to add to magical damage. Fantastic stuff. Remember, Rune Blade is the alternative. If you don't have one, you will get there. I think he even starts with one. I'm not sure anymore. And then Aegis Shield because bonus to that magical attack. Now looking at the helmet, notice I didn't go with the ribbon because we want as much HP as possible. We are running that Grand Helm on him. The Grand Helm is absolutely phenomenal, but giving him a decent amount of HP, scaling up that Titan, summon, and so on. And then the rubber suit is a happy medium where you're getting some MP and you're also getting some decent HP, and then an immunity to lightning, so I really suggest you to run that on him. And then Feather Weave Cloak to help him avoid getting hit, taking damage for whatever reason if that happens, which of course that is always the potential in the case. I really liked it on him. I had a lot of fun. I hate to see the same equipment on everybody all the time, and Feather Weave Cloak on him really did a job, and it was fun. Up next is Reis. Say it how you want. Anyways, I'm not far enough in the game to hear it voice acted and to know how it's supposed to be pronounced. But with that said, this character is a ton of fun. There's some unique things going on with her. I'm not going to give you the spoilers. For those know, you know. She can't use a lot of equipment on her base job, and so we'll get into that in a minute. However, her stats and her stat growths are bonkers, absolutely bonkers. And so keeping her on her main job, probably a lot of people say that's absolutely insane, but she gets some really cool things out of it, and so I really like it. If you switch her out of it, there's nothing wrong with that. But me, I've used it and to decent effect, and so I keep her on her base job, running Monk as her secondary job. That secondary job as Monk, of course, once again, all that utility. We're going to absolutely have all that so that she's able to do some pretty bonkers stuff and to have a lot of fun there. Now we're running that Shia Hadori as her reaction. Of course, that keeps her out of trouble with that high enough brave so that she really is resilient. And then Brawler, because she can't use weapons anyways, it's going to scale up what she does in a pretty significant way, especially running that Monk and so in those Monk abilities. So it's really, really good. And then I like Life Font on her because she's in there, she's up front, she's in the fray, she's getting messed up. So running around, walking, getting life back as she's messing up her opponents was always beneficial for me and in my mind. Now for that headpiece, we run that ribbon, status immunity. She's really limited on what she can use, so that's like basically the best in slot. And then that Septium, because you want to start with a little bit of a surprise and to start with a bang, and that gives her a little bit of an invisibility to start the battle. And not just invisibility, but you also get that awesome, wonderful haste, which she benefits from just as much as anyone. Her Dragonkin abilities are pretty fun and pretty great, and so this character is an interesting and a very interesting thing. That's all I'm going to say. And this is an interesting, fun way to play her. Oh, I can't forget, by the way, before we move on off of Reis, she starts with an innate dual wield. So that's when you're looking at that Monk sub-job and you're looking at that Brawler right there, she starts with an innate dual wield. So when you walk up to those enemies and you punch them, you're hitting them twice. It's absolutely phenomenal. She has quite a few innate abilities like Beast Talk and so on and so forth. Beast Tongue, I think it's what it's called. But regardless, really good stuff. So yeah, Monk subclass, Brawler, hitting people. She's fun. She's really great. And then finishing it all out is our boy Cloud, the coveted, classy, amazing, I don't know, he's classy, the character of the game that everybody seems to always want and love and talk about. Cloud, for me, when I first got him, was a bit of a disappointment. You'll notice right here in his way he's set up is his soldier main class, of course, is what I utilize. The stats on it, stat gross and everything are pretty substantial. They're pretty good. And those abilities you get equally so. But those abilities that he uses scale off of magical attack. And so when I first got Cloud, I was disappointed by that. Not a big deal now, not the end of the world, but when I was a kid, I was like, man, what? Like, you're telling me that, what? But anyways, Cloud, his soldier abilities scale off magical attack. Just understand that. For that reason, I suggest running subclass Black Mage. Black Mage, of course, is not the only option. You can run Mystic, you can run Summoner, you name it, Geomancer, whatever you want. But for me, Black Mage makes sense. It kind of makes sense for what he does based in the game in Final Fantasy VII, but also it really helps him with that extra damage and it gives him some very direct spells to cast, and yeah, I like it for that reason. Shia Hidori is the reaction I suggest because, as I've said 20 times already, it's busted, it's broken, and it's insane. And then for the support, we're running dual wield because we want as much magic attack damage as possible. You'll see in a minute. We Squeenix the fire out of Cloud to make sure he's properly representing Square Enix. And then teleport. Teleport is what we run on him because we want him to have lots of mobility, to get around the field, get properly positioned, to do what he wants to do. And so this is a fantastic movement ability on him. And then for that dual wield, Materia Blade Plus, baby. If you don't have access to it, Rune Blades, of course, do the job. But Materia Blade Plus, yeah, extra magic attack damage, really getting up there. Phenomenal stuff. Good stuff. Ribbon for the headpiece, immunity, set it 100 times. Body piece, rubber suit. Rubber suit, once again, immunity to lightning, decent HP, giving MP. Can't say enough good about this body armor. Make sure you go get it. It's poachable. And then Mage Power Glove. Mage Power Glove, because of that little bonus damage to magic attack, it's absolutely beneficial on them. It's not the only thing you have to use. You can switch it up and do something else. If you want that sortilege, there's nothing wrong with that. The haste and starting with invisibility with a little bonus to magic attack is phenomenal. I just wanted to mix it up and not use the same items over and over again, and so that Mage Power Glove does a very solid job. With that all said, those are my unique character builds that I suggest for Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles. Let me know what you think. Would you suggest anything different? Is there a flaw in my builds? I'm sure there is. So point it out, get down in the comments, and tell me all about it. There's quite a few people that know this game way better than I do. I just happen to love this game, and I feel like I have some decent knowledge on the game, but that doesn't mean that I know everything. So please drop down in the comments and let me know. Talk to me about it and tell me what can be improved upon, changed, or what you would do different just based on your opinion. I'm always glad to hear it. And with that said, play the game your way. This is my opinion. Doesn't mean it's how it has to be done at all. There was a point in my life where I played Final Fantasy Tactics. It was when Moral Lines dropped. I didn't want to use any. I didn't want to use any unique characters. I just wanted to use my default, run-of-the-mill, regular soldiers that you recruited. And honestly, it was a ton of fun. These characters are really broken, busted in a lot of ways. I plan on using them in my first playthrough, but I probably won't in a future playthrough. And yeah, but a lot of people always ask how to build them. I see that all the time posted. I see all kinds of comments about it, lots of debates. This is my take on it, and I hope that you enjoy it. With that said, huge shout out and thank you to my Patreon members. I deeply appreciate y'all, and I hope that you're enjoying my playthrough on Ivalice Chronicles. If you're not checking it out and you don't know anything about it, make sure you go over and check it out. With that said, take care, and I wish you all the best of luck in your adventures on the Ivalice Chronicles. And until next time, I will catch you later. Bye.